Hey guys, it's Josh here with Open Mic, and today we are here with Leon and Darryl Pitts, and today we're going to be talking a little bit about their film, The Rhythm and the Blues, that is going to be screening at the East Point Film Festival. So, how are you guys doing today?
I don't know where it is where you are, but it's beautiful weather here in NYC.
It's a little hot here, but nonetheless I'm inside, so it's still going well. The first thing that I did want to ask you guys is, with this whole concept of the film, it's a film about Eddie Taylor, and he's a legendary guitarist, and he's had wonderful contributions in the field of music. When he's doing the things that he does, some of his ideas end up getting stolen by other people, and they end up getting the credit for it. So what gravitated you guys to this particular story at the beginning?
I'm gonna let Darryl start off things, but I just want to say one thing. It wasn't his ideas that was stolen. It was his straight out songs that was stolen.
Big difference. So the idea, someone came to me with this idea about this guy who I'd never heard of, Eddie Taylor. And I'm a research junkie and a historian. And so when I started to do the research, I realized that he's one of the key architects of the electric guitar. I mean, obviously blues had been around before then, but he brought the electric guitar to the music. And as we know now, the blues is the foundation for every music art form, whether it be R&B, whether it be gospel, hip hop, et cetera, et cetera. So he is really a foundational figure in terms of American music. Let me not forget country in that too. He's really one of the key figures of American music, and he is unknown generally by the public. So the opportunity to tell a story about someone like that people should know was important. And when we started the process, the other producer asked, Eddie was short and stocky, and I wanted Leon to be the lead. And she at the time was very against it. And I wanted Leon specifically, not because he looked like him, but because he's able to play complex characters very well. You saw with David Ruffin, and for all that David Ruffin did, we still wanted him in the Temptations. And part of that is Leon's portrayal in that movie. He's able to take someone that you go, man, he's done a lot of really jerky things and still make you root for him. And I thought that kind of characterization would be perfect for the movie. And obviously it's worked out very well.
Thank you.
Well, one of the things that you said that I found very interesting is that you weren't going so much as for the exact look of the people that he's portraying, but going much more for the likeness and the feel and the essence of who that person actually is. And with that being brought up, Leon, I did want to ask you, what's one of the attributes of this character that you feel that you might relate to the most on a personal level?
Well, one thing I want to just harp on what you just said, because, having been blessed to be able to portray a few other people and artists, the most important thing is to capture your essence. That is the one thing that you need to be able to bring forth if you're trying to portray someone who actually walked and talked on this earth. And I really try to always make sure that that is something that comes across in my performances and in the movies that I do. In regards to what Eddie went through and what I might find similar to him in my own life, well, I'm an artist. I'm a Black artist. And no matter how much success we have, we got struggles. And because of guys like Eddie Taylor, maybe my struggles are as harsh and are more rewarding, but there's struggles nonetheless. And so that fight continues. And so I just always love to lean on on our predecessors who had to fight an even harder fight than we're fighting.
There's this saying that people say, history doesn't repeat itself, it rhymes. Do you feel that there are any particular attributes that continue to resonate, but maybe in slightly different forms in regards to what happens with Eddie Taylor's story and what other people might be dealing with today?
Oh yeah, without a doubt. I mean, we'll see scenes in this movie in which you'll see the way, these Black blues artists are treated by the record company, by the distribution companies, There's like a whole master plan, and now as we're discovering, especially, this has happened in the music business forever, but we're seeing even more so in hip hop, how the lyrics and the artists that are being pushed by the company happen to be these negative images because they believe that's what sells. So at the end of the day, we're being manipulated still. Okay, we're being manipulated still, and we're being kept down to where, not to where they want us to be. Okay, and so, yeah, like I say, the struggle continues. It may be on a different level, but there's always struggles. There's a friend of mine who's a very successful actor, more successful than I am, I hate to say, just joking. And I remember him saying to me, he said, Leon, man, it's still a struggle. Trust me. I mean, you may have a $500,000 struggle. I may have a $25 million struggle, but I'm still struggling to get what I think I'm supposed to get compared to what people do as well as I do that aren't my color.
When it comes to how one represents themselves in the industry, especially if you're Black and in the entertainment industry, people often keep in mind controlling your image and how that might represent you or the people around you. What do you guys believe is the importance of this particular lesson or this particular attribute of being in the film industry? And how do you feel like it applies to you guys in your careers?
It's very important because you're going to have a unique perspective. If you've never been Black, if you never grew up Black, there's some things, some intuitive things you just wouldn't know. If you grew up in a certain era and you had a sister, you remember the smell of the hot comb on the stove, right? That's not something you would know unless you grew up in that environment. And it might seem like a small thing, but really, cinema and television is really about the small moments and creating those small moments that people can relate to. Controlling your image also means that you get to tell the story the way you want to tell it. And technology has allowed us to do that. When I first got into the business years ago, if you didn't have a beta camera, which was $50,000, if you didn't have a $100,000 editing system, you were not in the business. So now with under $10,000, $15,000, young, you can start out and start creating your content from there. So I think it's a great evolution. We still have to figure out how we control our distribution, but I think that the evolution of us being able to tell our stories, whether it's the Issa Raes, whether it's the Tyler Perrys, whatever it is, I think the diversity of the stories, opportunities are there now, and they were not there, say, 30 years ago.
Where do you guys see the role of technology being played in the industry as it continues to advance in the future? Do you think it's going to have negative implications or more so positive ones?
You said, well, negative or positive, sometimes there's a very thin line there, blurred line, because what you might consider to be positive might be negative. What the audience may consider to be positive could be very negative to the artist and the creator. And so, I believe that used in the right way, it can be helpful. All technology, that advances filmmaking and allows us to tell stories better, quicker, has to be good. But when it's used to cut corners, to not pay people who actually create things, leave the artists out there, and then all of a sudden it does trickle down to the public, because the public's like, oh, I used to love that director, or that actor, what happened to him? He was so good. Remember that movie so-and-so? And you're like, why is he not working anymore? Because he couldn't afford to. He couldn't afford to be in a business where he had thousands, hundreds of thousands of fans, but wasn't being paid for his work. And unfortunately, the more and more we move into the technology age with AI and everything else, well, people, at least the consumer, thinks that they can get entertainment for free. And so when you grow up with a generation thinking that they can get any, single, music, watch anything on their phone for free, how are you going to tell them that the artist is being paid?
And we see that a lot with the streaming platforms. I mean, 7 million streams and you walk away with a check for $500. I mean, that's just criminal.
Oh yeah, no, it's terrible.
Yeah, it is. And so technology, everything has a business component attached to it. And so you have to look at it like, even for example, if you look at record companies as a whole, at one point, the highest paid artist was getting 15% of their record. So you wrote the song, you sang the song, you did all of that, and you're getting 15%. And that was like Michael Jackson getting 15%. The average artist was getting 3 to 5% of their record, right?
Yeah, and there's definitely this thing where, especially for people that are newer into the industry, they don't know a lot of these tricks and whistles that end up showing up that they're not expecting, but then end up running into it. And unfortunately for some people, I feel like it might end up crushing their dreams or discouraging them in a sort of way. But if you guys had any advice that you could give to yourself from back when you were first starting that you feel like would be good advice for someone, say, that's starting off now in the film industry, what would be that advice that you'd want to give?
So when I started out, I did a lot of free work. And I did a lot of free work, and I know people don't like to hear that, but I did a lot of free work because I wanted to learn from people that I thought were further advanced than I was. And I did it for a while because that was my internship, if you will. I mean, obviously I worked at BET, but it's just really having the opportunity to work with experienced people and understand the business. You know, when I got to BET, I was on the creative side, but I was also in the traffic department. I was on the sales department. I literally wanted to know, how do you make money in this business, right? Because again, it's show business, not just show. There's a business aspect. So learn the business. Take the time to learn the business. That doesn't mean you're not going to be manipulated. That doesn't mean you're going to not be taken advantage of, but at least you understand what's going on. And the last thing I would say is delayed is not denied. Just because something doesn't happen today doesn't mean it's never going to happen. And I've seen that with this film. And I just think that money is not the thing that's going to stop you from achieving your dream. I think the biggest thing is, do you have the passion and persistence to stick with it? And those would be the pieces of advice I would give myself then and I would give someone today.
Without a doubt, persistence and believing in yourself. Because there are going to be times where that belief in yourself, you're just going to feel like the only belief you have. But hopefully you have a good support system and, you know, people who do believe in you and you can help you, you know, guide yourself through. And for entertainers, I say the same thing all the time, you know, be you. That's the one thing you can offer the world that no one else can. Uniquely you. That's the only thing I ever try to give people all the time. So I tell, you know, there may be people that can sing better than me, act better than me, look better than me, but ain't nobody out there can out-Leon me.
My name is Darryl Pitts.
Hi, this is Leon.
And you're watching Open Mic.
And you're watching Open Mic.
With a sexy voice, huh? I might need to do that again.
Listen, Darryl, I am not responsible for what turns you on, okay?
Alrighty, fellas, we enjoyed our time with you guys. We'll let you guys get back to your busy schedules.